We are already a quarter of the way through 2024. So what stands out from the first quarter reads? That's what we have in store today. Hi, I'm Amanda, and this is Spineless Books, your one-stop shop for all things audiobook. So far in the first quarter of 2024, I have attempted, not finished, 23 different books. So I'm going to go through them one at a time, tell you yes or no to the best of my ability, and try to keep it to a brief explanation, but honestly, some of these are kind of hard to keep short. So here we go. So in January, I finished 7 books. The first up was Victory City by Salman Rushdie. Yes, read this book if you love epic adventures that feel like they're old-timey and kind of classic, but with a little bit of a modern twist. Next, we had Only One Left by Riley Sager. I would have said yes, but the truth is the more time I spend post reading this book and I go back and think about it, it's kind of become a no. So, I don't know, maybe read it and let me know what you think. After that, we have Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. If you are a creative in any way or aspire to be a creative, absolutely yes with this one. After that is Hidden Pictures by Jason Rekulik. Nah, you don't need to read this one. Skip it. Next, we have Starling House by Alex E. Harrow. No, because she has better options for you. Instead, pick up 10,000 Doors of January. You'll like that one a lot better. Next, we have Prophet Song by Paul Lynch. This won the Booker Prize this year, and honestly, it's depressing, but definitely worth reading. Really great book for group discussion. And finally, in January, we have Chain Gang All-Stars. Definitely yes. This will make you think about the justice system in a whole new way, and it's pretty entertaining. In February, I finished 6 books. So first up was Finding Me by Viola Davis. Yes, absolutely read this book. I don't care who you are, what you like, read this book. Just read it. Read it. Absolutely read it. After that, we have The Bandit Queens by Parini Shroff. You can skip this one. It had some fun moments, but not really all that memorable. Next up was Pinocchio by Carlo Collodi, the original, not the story we're all familiar with, but one that started that story. Now, honestly, unless you're curious about the roots of Pinocchio that you know, I would skip this one. It was really fascinating and pretty interesting to see the structure, but it was not really a great read. Pretty terrible read, actually. After that was East of Eden by John Steinbeck. Absolutely. Love this. Really dug into it. It was long, but it really paid off in the end and absolutely worthwhile. The Mothers by Britt Bennett. I would skip this one. Instead, I would choose The Vanishing Half, a slightly more popular book of hers. It feels more polished and more interesting. And finally, Vaster Wilds by Lauren Groff. Yeah, you need to read this one. Really interesting adventure novel, not always uplifting, but worth it and really compelling. Definitely love this one. In March, I completed 5 books and I had my first DNF, did not finish, of 2024. I started with Imagine Me Gone by Adam Hazlitt. Yeah, this one made me think a lot, a little bit depressing, but definitely really engaging read, really beautifully written, and as long as the subject matter checks out for you, I would go for it. Next was Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse. It wasn't bad, but it really wasn't great. It made me think a little bit, but it also made me think I don't really want to read the rest of the series. So this was the first book in a trilogy. I'm kind of okay to skip the rest. Family Lore by Elizabeth Acevedo, my first DNF. I didn't even make it to the halfway point with this one. I found it slow, the characters were muddy, and it didn't grab me. I mean, it had a cool premise, but for me, I wasn't there and I just had to bail on it. Next up is The Measure by Nikki Ehrlich. I would read this one. Think about it this way. If you could find out exactly how long your life would last, would you want to know? And if you did know, what would you do with your time? Pretty interesting concept and a really good book. The Boys in the Boat by Daniel James Brown. Honestly, really interesting, a little bit slow. Well, okay, maybe a lot slow, but kind of fascinating. So here's what I'll say. If this period of history is not your period of history, maybe skip it and watch the movie instead. You could save yourself a whole lot of hours. Percy Jackson, The Lightning Thief by Rick Riordan. Okay, I get it. I get why it's really popular, but it's also really written for kids. So I think this is one where if you didn't read it as a kid, it might not grab you the way it would if you had read it when you were young. So I won't say skip it, but it wasn't really my cup of tea. In April, I read 7 books, and first up was When We Were Orphans by Katsuo Ishiguro. Now, I enjoyed the book. I didn't love it. I liked it. But I will say that it made me curious enough about Ishiguro's writing that I will absolutely read another of his books. Really like the writing in this one. The Book of Lost Things by John Connolly. It's kind of a retelling of fairy tales, although it's about more if we had gotten them very wrong and how they really happen. Interesting. I liked it. I think I'll be skipping the sequel. Not really because the sequel wouldn't be good, but the sequel is actually a very different story. It's more of a unrelated series that happens to have the same kind of title. So I'm good with just the one. The Housemaid by Frida McFadden. Now, I know a lot of people love this book and love this series. For me, it was a little formulaic, a little bit predictable. Not that I guessed every twist and turn of the book, but I felt like I'd read that structure before, and it wasn't that interesting to me, so I think I'm good with just the one. Next, I read The Haunted by Chuck Palahniuk, but when I say read, I mean I listened to maybe 2 or 3 chapters, decided it was gross, kind of lacking a plot, and that it wasn't for me. Now, I know the story is told in increments and little vignettes, but it just didn't get me. I wasn't following enough of it, and it was like a little icky, honestly. I have a pretty high threshold for gross things, and this one just was like gross just to be gross. So I'm good. I didn't finish this one. Harold by comedian Stephen Wright. This is probably the best comedy book that you haven't heard of. It's about the musings of a 3rd grade boy, and it's honestly something you just have to experience to understand. It's hilarious. I laughed out loud. It's weird. It's philosophical. It's really great, and it's pretty short, so I absolutely recommend picking up Harold. The Women by Kristen Hanna. It's about a nurse in Vietnam, and I liked it. I thought it was good. I don't know that it's universally appealing. I feel like it's a book that's really targeted towards women, and not to say, guys, you shouldn't read it, but I don't know that it'll pull you in. It was good. I learned a lot, and it made me think a lot about stuff, but I'm not sure it's the type of book that everyone will enjoy. The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea by Axie O. It's a YA novel. I didn't have high expectations for this one, but honestly, it kept me pretty engaged. I was very intrigued and enjoyed listening to it. So that wraps up my first quarter of the year. I'll let you know what books I have on hold so you can know what to expect coming up soon. Maybe not in the next quarter. Depends on wait times, truthfully. But I have Wellness by Nathan Hill. Carrie by Stephen King, which will be my very first Stephen King book. I did try to read The Stand, but I was like 15 and it's a really big book, so I did not finish reading that. So we're not going to count that, but Carrie. Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. I've also never read Brandon Sanderson, so I'm really excited to try this, although I know it's a little bit of a departure from his normal writing. The Dictionary of Obscure Sorrows by John Koenig. Don't know anything about it, but it sounds super cool. The Warm Hands of Ghosts by Catherine Arden. Really intriguing title. As Long as the Lemon Trees Grow by Zulfa Katu. I hope I got that right, or even like a little bit close, but I have no idea. Don't even know what it's about. Just heard it was good. Our Kindred Creatures by Bill Wasilewski and Monica Murphy. Really kind of excited to read that one. It's about our relationship with animals as a society and why we've grown to love pets like family members. What was the best book you've read over the last few months? Let me know in the comments. I can't wait to hear from you, and maybe you'll offer some great suggestions that I can take. Thanks for sticking around. See you next time.